Hello, it's Chris from 365 Days of Compassion. It doesn't seem that long ago that we were marking the 1000th day of the hashtag, although actually that was all the way back in September 2020. And in August 2020, I wrote a reflective blog post reflecting on the hashtag, and one phrase when I've just reread that stood out was this sentence, and it said, "But what was unexpected and a gift that arose from the hashtag was a connection and community around it." And that's really resonated with me today when I've been thinking about day 2000, which is tomorrow, the 27th of June 2023. And it resonated with a talk that I was very kindly invited to do recently by the Peruvian chapter of the ACBS for their Creating Compassionate Communities event. And I thought, therefore, for the 2000th day, it would be perhaps appropriate just to share some of the thoughts and reflections that I shared in that talk to help celebrate this milestone. So this is not a story, however, about a hashtag. It's more a story about connection. And connection one is the start. So I'd like you to picture a scene. It's a therapy room. It's a cold, early spring day in 2017. And I'm in the middle of a long period of depression. And I was asked a very simple question. And that question was, have you heard of Paul Gilbert? And I thought for a second and said, who? Sorry, Paul. Now picture that the therapist had a piece of paper in their hand and they drew a large red circle on the paper. And they said, well, Paul has this model of 3 circles, 3 emotional regulation systems. We have our threat system, the red circle. They then drew a large blue circle and said, we have our drive system. And then they drew a smaller green circle, which was the soothing system. And at that moment, a celestial choir and a ray of sunlight came down onto me, and I thought, ha. Well, of course, that didn't quite happen like that. But something in that simple model, and I say simple with due respect to it's very complex actually behind it, but it's an elegantly simple model to get your head around, kind of made its way in through my rather befuddled mind. And during that therapeutic period, I started to read quite a lot around Paul's work, starting off with mindful compassion, and it started to help this approach of using compassionate mind training exercises, taking a more compassionate approach to mental well-being, and it really started to help, and it gave me the courage and the wisdom to start writing about depression. I hadn't really shared that with people, and first of all that was to a small group of friends, and then as that kind of connection started to grow, I started to write a public blog, and that started to get shared on social media, which led to many other connections with people who were also experiencing similar, and to those who were in the compassionate community, which leads us on to connection 2, the hashtag. So one of those connections that I made on social media was Dr. Mary Welford, and in December 2017, Mary created this little idea of the advent of compassion. So she was going to post something daily on Twitter, something that was compassion themed, so a video, a quote, an article, and invited us to do so. So the equivalent of an advent calendar. And this gave me this idea that why wouldn't we do this every day of the year? That would be great. And from there, the idea of the hashtag was created. And it had a very simple idea at its heart. That simple idea was to try and share something each day that may be helpful to others. They may find it helpful. It may just find a moment when they need to hear something or read something. Now, I've covered this back in the 1000 day reflection when we did it, but there were various things that I wanted to do right from day one that kind of supported the hashtag. So one of them was to take these daily quotes. So lots of people were putting things out on Twitter as kind of little thoughts, daily thoughts. but I wanted a way to capture them for those who weren't on Twitter, and also kind of to capture them in a slightly different format. So I kind of came up with the idea of creating daily quotes, which is to take those tweets, map the words to an image that kind of reflects that, and then post it out. And then I had my own little kind of rules around daily posts. So Monday was a book quote, Friday is just an excuse to share some music, Saturday is the review, which we'll come on to in a moment, and Sunday's podcast. And outside of that, it can be research, articles, videos, anything that's compassion related, and I think will be helpful. The review was something that I created right from the start, which was an idea of trying to create this kind of online magazine where it will try and collect as much of the daily posts as possible. Again, just trying to help to share it. That was originally on an application that then wanted to start charging. One thing that the hashtag is fundamentally about is that it will never charge for anything. There's no fees. We're not selling anything. So I looked around and we found Flipboard, which produces a great online magazine format. And we've just published the 167th edition of the review. All those editions are available on Flipboard, so anybody can go back and have a look at some fantastic resources. Which takes us on to Connection 3, the unexpected. So some of those things were planned to happen, like the review, doing things, but other things weren't quite as planned and have just kind of happened and evolved. So writing's always been helpful to me, along with the personal blog. So that led on to suggesting and creating the community blog, the 365 Days of Compassion community blog, which has got some great posts on it from various folks from within the community, from poetry through to personal shares. It's great. Talking about this hasn't always been easy for me, despite the fact I'm now doing a video, and I've done other videos, but that kind of compassion itself has helped me to navigate through that, and it's important for me to share this. So that's led on to doing podcast appearances, a standout one being probably the first one that I did actually, which was for the BABCP way back in the summer of 2018, which was actually recorded in Paul Gilbert's lounge, which was very surreal to be talking about his work and depression in his lounge, but a wonderful experience. That's also led to other podcast appearances, and also the series of YouTube videos that I did where I was just trying to communicate what CFT and compassionate mind training have mean to me, what kind of exercises I find useful. And then the book club came along, which again was from an inspiration from Mary Welford. So Mary had suggested or asked me if we were interested in doing something like a book club. Ran for a couple of years on Twitter, and then switched to a video live format, which worked really, really well. It's been on pause for a couple of years for various reasons. It's now back. I'm delighted to be doing that again. It's just, again, another way of trying to get access for people to some of the compassion writing that's been done, giving authors a chance to come along and chat about their work and share their own experiences. And I guess one of the other unexpected things was that in December 2017, I created this silly idea of the Chizzy Awards, which was a kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek, daft way of me making some recommendations of things that helped me in that year, books, videos, talks, etc. And it's kind of gone on each year, and that's been really spurred on by the fact that people who are featuring the awards, or people who read about them, really like them, so it's continued. And the 6th awards were last December, and again highlights the podcast, the books, the videos, and now the community members as well who made a difference during each year. And that really highlights the unexpected piece of this hashtag, the community that has really come around it. So Connection 4 is the community. It's the biggest unexpected aspect of the hashtag. There was no kind of idea that was going to happen. It's kind of evolved, and that is its beauty, really. The daily post was simply about sharing things that may help. I kind of hoped that if it helped one person, that was great. And I do know from feedback from people, messages or things people have said, that it has helped many people at different times. And to be honest, it was uncertain when I started how long those daily posts were going to go on. I probably didn't even think I was going to last that year. And yet here we are in the 6th year of the hashtag. And that community spirit really sustains. And it's great because some people have been part of that since day one, since only last week. Some people have come into it and then gone. Some people are very quiet within the community group, some are a bit more active with comments or posts. Some people find it, they come in for a certain time when it's needed and then they step back away from it. And none of that matters to the hashtag in terms of everyone is welcome, everyone is valued for whatever and for how long it means something to them. The hashtag will be there and it will continue. And I just love the fact that that community has kind of grown organically, and the fact that people find it has meaning, that this hashtag means something to them, completely astounds me whenever I start thinking about it. And I have no idea of how many people have a connection to the hashtag through various channels, its various formats. All I do know is that each and every one of those connections has made a community that is celebrating its 2000th day. And what I love is that someone recently said to me that community feels like a home from home. And I couldn't ask for much more than that. I never expected that from the hashtag. So this has not been a story about a hashtag, and it's not really been a story about connection. It's really a story about community. And thank you for being part of it.